Okay, so the last type of statistical analysis that we'll be working on is a simple bivariate linear regression. In order to do this, I've opened up the Mary volunteer profile dataset that's saved with the book data. So let's go ahead and run the analysis. So we're going to go to Analyze, Regression, and Linear. Here I've already entered the information, but the dependent variable we're looking at is how many hours per week somebody volunteers, and we're trying to predict that based on a person's income. I've also added the box for descriptive statistics in here just for our own information. So once you've entered all that, you can go ahead and click OK to run the analysis. So these are the results that SPSS will produce for a regression. The first thing that we can see here that's a little bit different than what we would normally look at is the model summary, which lists the R-square value. So this essentially tells us that 63.1% of the change in our dependent variable, volunteer hours, can be predicted by change in income. The next thing that we can look at is actually listed in the ANOVA box here, which is the p-value, and this being 0.0001 less than 0.05 essentially tells us that there is a statistically significant relationship between our two variables. So now I've gone back to the original data set, and in order to give you guys another example to work with, we're going to see how well somebody's age predicts the hours per week that they volunteer. Now I'm just trying to come up with an example using the data set that we have here, but keep in mind that for this type of linear regression, we can only work with continuous level variables. Therefore, gender and region can't actually be used within this analysis. So let's go ahead and try this again. We'll go to Analyze, Regression, and Linear. And now we'll take out income, and we're actually going to add age into the independent variable box and go ahead and run the analysis. So the first thing that we'll see here is the p-value, which is 0.004, meaning that this relationship is statistically significant. However, now we'll look at the R-square value, which is 0.133, indicating that there's actually not a very strong relationship between these variables. So only 13.3% of the change in volunteer hours can be predicted by someone's age. And what this usually tells us beyond the kind of statistical component is that there might be something missing from our model. So there might be a better variable to predict volunteer hours if we perhaps included income and age as sort of a combination to write out a bigger equation, that might be a better way of modeling how much someone volunteers in hours.